All right, let's talk about Tua and the Miami Dolphins here, who I thought had a very strong offensive performance in this game. I mean, you look at their overall game, they only had one drive where they didn't score points, and that was their end of the half drive in the end of the first half. They had 4 touchdowns and 2 field goals for their other drives. Short possession game, a lot of long possessions by Miami, but let's talk about what they did so well and how they were able to ultimately kind of dominate this Las Vegas Raiders team. And this play will be a good example of really just the many things that go into a good Miami Dolphins play. Also, real quick, before we get too far into this, I will mention I do have a movie channel. If you like watching movies, like talking about movies, you can check that out. The link is in the description below. It is called Jackson Kruger Movies. I do like some, movie reviews and then some other fun movie-related topics that I like to get into. So, yeah, if that seems like your kind of thing, check it out. But anyway, let's get back to the film study. So, first off, Raiders, they like to play a lot of zone coverage. That's what they're doing here, cover 3 zone, and the Dolphins are going to try and take advantage. First, they have 2 receivers running the routes you see on the screen right here. These are both setup routes. Again, maybe it'll get open, you can throw it to them, but really, this is designed to help Tyreek Hill get open, where you have 2 routes, essentially pushing Miami defenders who are covering the middle of the field to specific areas of the field, clearing out a throwing lane for Tyreek Hill, who's going to run like that, and hopefully you can get a window over there. That's the way this play is designed to work. Watch. When it begins, you see that Tua looks over, and right here, first part working well. The 2 Raiders players are definitely where the Dolphins want them to be. There is another Raiders player kind of in the area. That guy, he started off as though he was going to be blitzing, but then he drops back into coverage. But in doing this, he's essentially just taken himself out of the play, so he's way out of position. And you see where Tyreek Hill is. I mean, he's definitely open now because of all this. All he has to do is make sure that the cornerback who's in that area doesn't come crashing in to try and make a play. But you just can't really do that against Tyreek Hill until you see him commit to a cut because he's so fast. Like, you have to give him some space. So, that's not really going to be an issue. And also, if you look at Tua, he's not just into throwing motion. He's thrown the football. The ball is out of his hands at this point. Tyreek Hill hasn't even cut yet, but I mean, these guys are always on the same page. Watch as Tua makes that throw. And again, people will look at something like this and say, it was pretty easy. Dolphins offense working well, all that. There's so many moving parts and you need so many different things to work, to work out. This is part of why I think to some degree having some injuries have kind of derailed them, especially earlier this season. But when they are fully healthy and they have so many different guys who can do their jobs effectively, this is what allows for Tyreek Hill to get wide open. They also do simple things like this, again, designed to get Tyreek Hill open, but a very simple play, but it's going to be a man coverage concept on a 3rd down and 3. The Dolphins were definitely being able to convert on 3rd down and shorts pretty effectively in this game. Watch how when this play begins, you see how, good. First off, well-ran rub route by the receiver who's in that area. That's Jalen Waddle, and again, I mean, Jalen Waddle running on both these plays, he was running a setup route. I mean, that's how you get good offenses, is you have to have star players buy in and be willing to help out the other guy, because you know that you do that, eventually you'll get helped out on a different play. Running a good route, though, making sure he looks towards the quarterback so it won't be a penalty, because it appears as though it could be a regular route. Tyreek Hill is open, and Tua's going to put this one right on the money, perfectly timed. They pick up the first down right there and are able to move the chains, right? These little things are really important for an offense to be able to do, and it's what they can do, which is why they're playing at such a high level. Of course, it helps when, you just have Tyreek Hill who can do this, which is, it's a 4th down and 2. This is man coverage. There's nothing fancy here. This is just Tyreek Hill's running a slant route against man coverage. Let's look in his direction. And to be honest, on this play, it is good coverage by Jack Jones, the corner who's covering him. I mean, this is not wide open. Usually Hill can get wide open. Here, not so much. But again, there is a window. Tua just puts that one in a good spot. Tyreek Hill is still open enough. He can make the grab, and they convert on to 4th and 2. They don't need more yards than that. That was the goal, convert on to 4th and 2, and they accomplished it. So again, there was so much of this stuff throughout the game. But there was other stuff too. There were more flashy plays, I would say. This one is a good example. They didn't have to do this kind of thing too often, but they were able to hit on it when they had to. This is a zone coverage concept. Jalen Waddle is going to start off as though he's going over the middle. He's then going to make his way back towards the top of the screen. Sometimes you do this because those over the middle routes are so deadly. Teams run those all the time, and it can often be a good idea for a fake there because of it. I'm not actually sure that's what's happening here. It might have just been Jalen Waddle saw the way the play was going and improvised. And the reason why he would have to improvise is, well, let's show you. Tua takes the snap. He actually initially looks towards Tyreek Hill's direction. Ultimately decides he needs to figure something else out. But in stepping up in the pocket, he now realizes Max Crosby is right there. That's not a guy you want to meet right now. So trying to figure something else out. But Tua does get around him, then finds Waddle, who was in a gap in coverage over there. So again, whether that was by design by Waddle or by a design by the Dolphins offense, either way, it's great stuff by Tua to eventually be able to locate him and make the play work, and still a well-ran route by Waddle. Heading over here, part of what makes this Dolphins offense so difficult to stop is just they essentially get free good plays because of how deadly they can be. Like this one, it's Jack Jones, who I just gave credit to on an earlier play for covering Tyreek Hill pretty well. He's a fast player, but going up against Jalen Waddle, you do have to be aware of a potential deep shot. Even though Waddle isn't on the outside on this play, he still could end up there. And worth mentioning, there's 2 safeties deep, so they're really focused on taking away a deep shot already just by the scheme. And yet, when Tua takes the snap, you look at how much space Jones is giving Waddle right here. They're almost accepting the 5-yard out on a 1st down and 10. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Not just that, but when Tua makes the throw, he makes it quickly enough that Waddle's able to pick up an extra 5 yards and essentially just gets a free 1st down. I mean, this is in big part of how the Dolphins were able to move the ball down the field is essentially the Raiders were saying, we're not going to give you anything deep. And they said, okay, it'll be death by 10-yard gains. And that's really what was happening. There was a ton of lengthy drives in this one by the Dolphins. I mean, in the second half, their first drive was 14 plays for a touchdown. The second drive was 10 plays for a touchdown. They then had 4 plays for a touchdown. That was on a 57-yard pass to Jonnu Smith that I didn't include in this video. But, for the most part, it was a lot of stuff like this. And let's go over to Jonnu Smith, too. We got to give him a shout-out. The guy had over 100 yards. Kind of surprising. I think a lot of people maybe realized for the first time this season that Jonnu Smith is a player on the Miami Dolphins. But I have to say, I thought he was playing good football out there. Because, I think when usually you see something like this, you assume it's just, scheme or, okay, he did have the 57-yard, gain. Usually you assume it's, one big play. And obviously that was a big role. But this is a really good play as well. It's a 3rd down and 4 situation. The halfback is running a route to help out Jonnu Smith by holding that player covering over the middle of the field. Smith's route is the one going deeper and hopefully getting underneath the corner. But again, he has to be able to win in this situation. We saw how Tyreek Hill did it because he's such a deep threat. Obviously, Jonnu Smith doesn't exactly garner the same respect defensively that Tyreek Hill does. But when Jonnu Smith runs this route, he just runs it really effectively. I mean, he, cuts over at the last second and is able to give himself just a little bit of a window for this play to work. The corner can't come in. So, listen, I mean, it's not Tyreek Hill, but it's a really good route. And being able to win your one-on-ones is how you can convert on a 3rd down and 4. As you see, really well thrown ball there by Tua to make this play work, and they were able to ultimately, convert there. So, yeah, really good stuff. So, yeah, I mean, again, really strong performance by the Dolphins. It was just the Raiders. There is only so much you can take away from it. And again, the Raiders did kind of hang around a little bit. They were able to score some of their own in this game, but at the end of the day, Dolphins were the better team. They were able to handily win, and they, again, got to rack up some of these wins. We all know about the hole they got themselves in early, but they play the Patriots next week, an opportunity to get another win potentially, so we'll see how that goes before the schedule gets a little tougher. But yeah, those are my thoughts on all of this. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.